My class is here, the Maine Environmental Science Academy at Mollyhock Middle School. They'll be here part of the show. I hope to also integrate them as much as possible as we go along. Thank them for being here, and I'm sure they're going to be a great audience. When I go like this, they should clap. All right, and I'm working off of Mike's technology, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. So I was really hoping that I could just like advance slide, but I'm very happy to have the laser pointer. So I don't think I need the PA system or the speakers, right? Everybody can hear me okay? But do you mind if I still wear it? I kind of feel more important. That's okay? Thank you so much. All right, so, better not do it that way. Do it this way. Go back, here we go. Let's do it this way. I'll do this side by side. How did we get here? Well, one of my little side note here, and by the way, there'll be lots of side notes today. The question that I've heard the most today, did you drive the bus today? I'm going for my bus driver's license. I'm not literally, when I ask this question, how did we get here? It's more of a figurative kind of frame of manner. How did we get to this point in time? If you would have asked me 10 years ago, gee, do you think you'd be giving a speech at Tin Mountain on mountain biking? No way on earth. Well, a couple of different reasons. At that point in time, 10 years ago, Tin Mountain didn't own the Bear Park property. And I really just didn't see the connection per se. But how did we get to this moment in which you have mountain bikers talking about trail networks on Tin Mountain property? That's one of my goals that we'll get to today, the basic understanding of how did we get to this moment. Another goal for me as well is to talk about sustainable trail practices. How that at the end of the day, when all said and done, you've done some quality work, that it is enduring. Okay, I think I'll take different avenues for you to see that. Okay, one of my more favorite pictures, you can't really see that, but there it is. There's a mountain bike right there on the porch. It was last summer. I came out to go visit Mike Klein, and we were going to talk about an event that we planned to do on the Bear Park property. Yes, Mike did blow me off that day, but for those of you that know Mike Klein, you're not too surprised. But anyways, we showed up that day, and I was like, oh, I got to take a picture of my bike right there on the porch. Okay? Working collaboratively. So before I go too much further, it's like, who is Mesa? Your Maine Environmental Science Academy? Got some kids right here. If you don't mind, I just want to take like 5 minutes of your time to talk about my program. Because my program actually has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about later today, and you'll see. There's the website. There's the Facebook page. Did I get it right, Megan? Yes. I'm not really that... oops. Go. I have no idea how that picture got up there. There's my 2-year-old okay,
accidental.
Mesa, the terminology that's come through my mind lately is we want to put the applied and applied science through experiential learning. And that's pretty dang tough. A lot of parents and a lot of kids will say, I'm a hands-on learner. Well, no, that's probably not necessarily the case, but we can try that out. Experiential learning is getting out and learn by doing. And, if you see something, that's great, you might remember it. If you hear something, that's something else, you might remember it later. But if you're involved in the process, chances are you remember it a lot longer. So, here's some of the things. Here are my peeps. Okay, right up there, that's Mesa at the Bear Paw property. On that particular day, we had biked there. You got to listen to Chris Louie of Raven Interpretive Programs. Okay, great. Here's another opportunity to give it to Tin Mountain. We did some bird banding with Sean in the back. The bugs weren't that bad that day. Okay, we caught some really nice birds. We want to talk about hands-on learning. Having a bird in your hand and right up close, just like Audra is right now. Great. Bryan Pond. Some things that we did in Bryan Pond, a big giant zip line, some water rockets. Bryan Pond is a great opportunity to give kids an opportunity to help one another. Once you give and create an opportunity for one of these kids to help somebody else outside their comfort zone, That is a marvelous educational opportunity. That's what we strive for. We did this last year in conjunction, Mesa, in conjunction with Eastside Bike Guides, White Mountain National Forest, and I always forget the last one. There was somebody else that we had. The snowmobile. There we go. So a huge collaborative effort. We built a bridge on the backside of Cathedral Ledge. We built this monstrous bridge. It'll be there probably for the next 100 years. And we did it in 3 hours? 3 hours. Boom. All said and done. A lot of hammers and nails flailing, and not everybody's had their eyes. The day was done.
And it was wet.
It was a wet day. It was a wet day. And then I got these two over here. This is us going ice fishing. One of the great things about our program is I really admire these two individuals up here an awful lot. And I say positive things about them all the time. I wish they would say the same things about me, but they don't. And, you know, you got Abby here from Brownfield, Audrey here from North Level. Two kids that had no idea whatsoever about each other, and they formed this great relationship. In Mesa, we care more about the student, the whole student. I don't really care if you know how to capitalize something all the time. I'll care more importantly that if you grow up to be a holistic individual that might be my neighbor someday. That's a goal. That's something we do. So we're bringing the classroom to the outdoors and the outdoors to the classroom, and that's not for everybody. That isn't. It sounds fun. I was just talking to Dr. Simpkins outside. You know, if you're outside, and you know that famous scene from Up, that Disney movie with the dog and the squirrel? Okay? Outside is very distracting, and it takes somebody that's very mature learner to get there. We use bikes for transportation. I love this line here. I put Y up here, and then this is what Chris filled in for me on this Google Doc. I was going to say Y because it's cheap to use bicycles, it's green to use bicycles, and it's healthy. And then Chris is just bringing it back to where it needs to be. It's liberating the students and just a whole lot of fun. Being on bikes, it is a blast. I implore you, sometime this summer, get on your bike and go through the fairgrounds. You want to have a blast? Go through the cow barns. Go through the underpass. Yell a little bit. Put your feet off the pedals. I guarantee you, you will have a healthy time. Oh, there we are. Who's that guy? All right. So we get on our bikes and we go over to Bear Paw. Fairly safe trip. For those of you that are familiar with the Shriners, it's kind of like what that looks like. Imagine 30 individuals, blaze orange, helmets and all. Car up, car back. They're all talking. Very safe. We can take them from Mollyhocket down Pine Street, over to Warren Street. We hook onto the bike walk path. And pretty much that takes us over to the Bear Paw property, where we can meet Mike, and Mike does his thing. Shout out to Mike. Mike really demands a lot from these kids. They just took their practicum. You want to talk about, some Fagus grandifolia, Tsuga canadensis. You want to ask, maybe find out what that is. You can ask any of these kids. They'll be happy to tell you. Ask demands an awful lot from our kids, and they deliver. So in Mesa, we say this all the time. We do it for the children. It sounds all so corny. Oh, you do it for the children. We'll sing a little Whitney Houston. I believe the children are our future. So we do that. We have a good time. Because by and large, you have 4 individuals that like kids. And we want to do a good job. We love what we do. And I think it shows. So we do. And we work very hard for the children so that we can, maybe. Okay. Some of the kids from last year remember this famous Super Joe moment.
Yes.
Joe burying his head in the sand. We can take a look at this psychologically if we want, but it's quite telling. Again, we do it for the children. Okay. So, long ago, I didn't know really Dr. Klein all that well. I mean, I've been at Mollyhocket I don't remember. It's like dog years. You teach in a middle school, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a blur. I want to say around 20 years. And since I've been working at SAD 72, we've always had a relationship with Tin Mountain for as long as I remember. And one of my earliest impressions, and I'm sure Megan will keep me honest, Megan, a trustee at Tin Mountain as well as a member of Mesa, is I really felt that Tin Mountain was not utilized as well as it should be at Mollyauket. Well, when Mesa comes along and our band of merry men and women, a tribe of 25, it became much more workable. And Dr. Klein started to work with us once a week, and he'd take us out. We'd gone to some amazing places, and we'd done some great things with Dr. Klein. And I got to know him a little bit better. And this is what I remember. Really, go back to my initial question, why are we here today talking about mountain biking? It had to do with this trip. We went up to Mount Perry, another day, quite like today. Great day to go bird watching. But in Mesa, it doesn't matter what the weather is, we're going out. It is pitching rain, and we're going to go up and try to look for a kettle of broad-winged hawks someplace. Probably not going to happen, but up Mount Perry we go. We got Carol Brooks, for those of you that know, is like 78 going on 14. She's marching right up Perry Mountain with us. And we're having a good talk with Dr. Klein, and he's going into his thing about, oh, we're in this forest stand, so on and so forth. And on the way down, we got to talk a little bit more. And kids, a little second here, it's much different when you're an adult getting to know another adult. When you're a kid and you got matchboxes and somebody wants to play with your matchboxes, instantly you're friends. Oh, he's my friend, this is great. But when you're an adult, it's much different. Getting to know people is much more complicated. Why? Because adults complicate things. So I came to find out, he knows that I'm a biker. He knows that I like to mountain bike. And he starts talking about the days that he used to bike quite a bit. And how he felt getting on a bike was one of the most liberating experiences for him. Because he's like, hey, I could go wherever I want. So we started to talk about bear paw. Now, when you mention the term bear paw, you could be referencing any 1,000 chunks of lands. But let's talk about the one that's by the State Line store. That's the one that I'm referencing to. That's probably the best. They're sad when I can say the State Line store or Dunkin' Donuts is the landmark of where you can find this place. But there's the sign. It's almost nondescript. You're going around that corner at 50 miles an hour. You might not even know it's there, except you see that Civic that used to be there all the time outside the gate. There's about 500 acres there, and when Dr. Klein and I first started to talk, there was a trail network there that had been there 15 years? 15 years? There was a trail network that already existed there. It was a little, granted, before Tin Mountain purchased the property, it was always a little sketchy. Geez, can you ride there? Should we ride there? And I do recall a time not too long ago coming down the trails, and there's Dr. Klein putting this gate up, and he always, and I didn't know him all that well. I was like, you bikers will always be able to go in here, which is great. So Bear Paw, as the trail system that did exist, there were plenty of trails there. Probably at the time 8 miles of trail system there. But sadly, a lot of them went through streams and seepage. If you look right here, you can notice the moisture. Water likes to go downhill. And you don't want, obviously that's a problem. Okay? We'll talk more about this later. Also, the trail network, some of it just had some straight lines. For you students that remember the Marble Run was a task I gave the kids. I want you to create a structure in which your marble is going to travel the furthest and longest time. Okay? Did you find that straight lines slowed the marble down? No. No, you want to change its velocity, right? Because velocity is speed in a given direction. Melina, what did you create that really made the marble travel a long time?
A funnel.
A funnel, right? No straight line really there, right? So there were a lot of straight lines, and then if something is off camber, typically this floor is nice and flat, it's nice to walk on, but off camber, certainly when you go hiking, you're trying to, imagine if you're walking on the surface, it's tilted a bit. Okay, then that's going to cause some problems, cause some safety problems, and also probably some erosion problems as well. So that's what it looked like at that point in time. I think maybe my wife had something to do with this, I don't know. But there we go. Oh, there's my dog, Dakota. There we go. So long ago, I'd say a couple of years ago, I started to try to do something about the problem. I created, what do you call them, Joey?
Ghetto bridges.
I created the ghetto bridges, as Joey called them. They were not marvelous pieces of art. The person that designed the Golden Gate Bridge would not have been all that happy. But that being said, it did one thing. It basically took a line that went right through this, we could say the term ephemeral, right? Because ephemeral means what? Seasonal. Okay? Nice big boy term. Or big girl term. We have this big ephemeral stream right here, a seepage. So the trail went right through it. Not really all that smart. So I used, since at the point in time in Bear Paw, they did a cut. And I'll talk more about Bear Paw as a sustained, managed property, but they did a cut and they left all this pulpwood all over the place. So I had stringers right there. I had some nice beech stringers that were, I don't know, sometimes 10, 12, 14 inches long, maybe 4 or 5 inches thick. And since beech likes to grow rather straight, it was pretty easy to use it without too much trouble. I started with a dock that my dad, he's right back there. You'll notice the fine gentleman in the back with the nice haircut. That's him. So
I want you to know I have hair.
my students call him Mr. Oliver. So my dad and I have a picture of it someplace else. My dad and I actually took apart a dock. And we ripped apart a dock, and it wasn't this bridge, it was another one. So I started using pieces from that. Okay, the top that really changed everything. At some point in time, as time went on, Dr. Klein and I talked about the property in earnest and really what was going on there. We talked about some of the things that probably needed to happen in order to have what he really wanted to pull off. If he really wanted people to be on his property safely as it was being used, some things needed to happen. There needed to be some reroutes that were planned. We need to take care of some off-camber trails and just the overall use. That's something that needed to happen. So here's, Chris took this picture. I want to say this was when we went through Bear Paw too. But we probably met, was that last fall? Yeah, I think we met last fall. This is a picture from this early spring, right? These leaves that are on the ground, somebody from Mesa, what do you want to tell me about those leaves that are on the ground or in the trees? What M word am I looking for?
Marcescent.
They're marcescent, right? What's up with marcescent leaves? You?
They stay all year round.
They stay where? Cable?
Stay on American beaches all winter.
Right. Absolutely. And somebody could tell me what American beach is in Latin, right?
Vegas
Jessica? Vegas Grandifolia, American beach.
Vegas Grandifolia, American beach.
Thank you. All right. So, but more importantly, we had a meeting in which I wanted, what does Tin Mountain do? Let's take a look at what Tin Mountain does for its charity events. They ride up Mount Washington, which is great. They sponsor a ride there. They do a 100-mile ride. They do their century ride. And those are the rides that I pretty much was familiar with. But none of those really showcase conservation at all. So I really, if people are going to be using Tin Mountain property, why not showcase what they do? Why not showcase sustainable forestry practices? At the Bear Paw, near the Dunkin' Donuts, near the State Line store, it's a nice contrast. You have a body of land that they've done some managed cuts. Next to it, not so much. And that's a clear distinction. You got to know when you're on Tin Mountain land and when you're not on Tin Mountain land. And it's quite painfully obvious. So again, getting back to Dr. Klein, the conversation that Chris had, that I had with him, we really wanted to showcase everything that Tin Mountain has to offer. So, why? Why would you want to do that? Because it benefits everybody. If you start pointing out, hey, you're doing this right, why not tell everybody else why you're doing it right? Because they also, in turn, might do it right. If Tin Mountain pretty much has an open access, you can come and access the property, it benefits the users. If you're going to do sustainable trails that are of quality, the users, of course, will benefit. And then, of course, the land will benefit as well. Okay, because we want, whatever we build, we want it to last a long time. My kids, Tuesday we hiked up Kearsarge. We realized we can't, at least the kids can do it forever. I'm not sure if I can. But we hiked up Kearsarge. For those of you that have hiked up Kearsarge in the last couple of years or two, think about the trail that goes up Kearsarge. Think about Yay. Yeah, it definitely has a lot of traffic. Think about all the erosion that takes place. You know, there's an awful lot going on there. That's certainly not something we want to see. Bear Paw. Okay. This was like the best. This was almost a tear-inducing moment for me. I had been working at Bear Paw with my rinky-dink dock. I had, disassembled, parking at the gate. Hey, Sarah. And what does Dr. Klein do? He drops me off some plank wood. My word, I love you, Dr. Klein. So there, he drops this off. So now instead of me having to haul my own wood, he drops it off like in the middle. So then I have supplies to use. Again, benefiting the landowner, benefiting the users, and benefiting the land as well. Then it got even better. The best gift. Where's my car now? I'm on the inside. He gave me the keys to the kingdom, baby. Who's better than me? I felt very privileged and honored, and it's not one I take lightly. So I was able to get inside. This reminds me of the conversation that I just had with my 8th graders. One of the bus drivers has a car that's like older than mine, but looks a heck of a lot nicer. And they're like, because Mr. Oliver, you bring your car in and out of Bear Paw all the time. You beat it up. Okay. So, because of now, here's that. I think this is my, Joey, I think that's my very first
He
get-out.
has a habit of taking pictures of his
Okay, I can
feet.
tell right now by looking at the plank wood, but look at all the water.
But it's a good one.
Couple things you need to look at. Look at the water. The trail comes down off that pitch. If you're going downhill, you probably have momentum. And I don't care whether you're walking, trail running, because we have a lot of trail
There you
runners,
go, a picture
or
of
you're
your
biking.
feet.
You got a head of steam. There's a lot of water. Okay? There's an issue there. Something had to be done. Oh, oopsie daisy. I left clicked. I wanted to right click. There we go. Sustainability starts with the landowner, and it also protects the landowner. What on earth could I mean by that? Well, in the state of New Hampshire, and I hate reading to people. I'm assuming you can read, right, guys? Yeah. Okay, in the state of New Hampshire, basically, to sum it up, people cannot damage the property. Okay? Basically, if you're saying, and you're not charging people, okay, people could, the landowner is not liable. You can't use the property, trip over a stump, and say, oh, I'm going to sue the landowner, okay? Because nothing was intentional, negligent, or anything like that. People cannot damage the property. Well, wait a minute, what does that mean? People can't damage the property. Well, from a mountain biking perspective, people can certainly damage the property, okay? Skidding. You're going along, you've got some speed, and what do? You hit that back brake. You grab a bunch of back brake, and all of a sudden your tire is now a plow. And now you are just raking up more soil. Right, Isaiah?
What?
Me? Okay. Also shortcuts. There's a trail. You got a little bend in the trail. You don't want to stay on the trail. You want to go faster, and you just plow through the wilderness. And then, of course, riding in very wet conditions. All those things are not smart. And all those things are of the onus of the rider. And this takes some education. We'll talk more about this. Oh boy, I'm looking at the time. Oh! Holy cow! Those are genetically altered curls, I swear. Okay, so, again, now what about, landowners shouldn't create hazards. Again, the trails that you're building or the land use that you're offering, there's some criteria you need to follow. What is it? What is that? Well, from a mountain biking perspective, you want your trails to be consistent. Think about it from a skiing perspective. You're going down on a bunny slope for a couple 100 yards. You're just starting to learn how to ski, and all of a sudden you're in a glade. You got to dodge trees. That wouldn't work out all that well. Okay? Your trails also got to respect wildlife. We've talked about salamanders this year, vernal pools. There's lady slippers that are fraught throughout Bear Paw, all sorts of species. And trails also need to be safe for everybody to use. Now, about protecting the wildlife, I'm so glad I had this on my phone. This was a trail that was built and it went by a beaver. Now, one of the things you really can't see, the beaver ate the small bridge. It chopped it up. I love that. That was cool stuff. So you gotta obviously you gotta take care of wildlife and respect wildlife. Okay, the East Bear Paw grounds. And this is for me is a different shift. Dr. Klein says, okay, Jotham and Chris, you're doing a bunch of work there. I need some oversight. Somebody needs to be in charge of quality work that's going to get done that protects the landowner, Tin Mountain, and also benefits everybody. So I'll stick with why am I calling it the East Bear Paw Grounds in a second, but let's move on. Basically, sustainability, in my opinion, needs oversight. Think about the AMC. My word, how many trail crew members are there? There's a lot of trail, everything needs to be taken care of, and there needs to be people taking a look at the work that's involved. So you need to have people that actually care. So there was a knighting ceremony. I'm not sure if you made it. No. Anyways, Dr. Klein said, hey, can you guys take care of the property and be happy to? Here's the first blaze orange sign that you'll see once you get past the gate. It says, hey, these are the people taking care of these trails. If you have a problem, a concern, a question, please contact these people. Okay, so by making the Bear Paw more sustainable, okay, what did we have to do? The first thing we wanted to do, oops, I'm missing a parenthesis mark, right? Right, guys? You guys want to correct my typo? Okay, keeping the trail on the property and finding the line. There was a trail, I loved it. You were in New Hampshire? You were in Maine. You were in New Hampshire? You were in Maine. It was awesome. The problem is, it started on Bear Paw Tin Mountain property. It went into Calvin Hunsecker's land, and then went into somebody else's land, then came back on Tin Mountain property. Not necessarily so good. So what we did was, we had to find a new route. This is not Indiana Jones with a machete. Okay, the line will be here. How long did it take? A long time. A very long time. If you're going to do everything that I've said, and you're going to do it well, if you fail to plan,
You plan to fail.
thank you. I believe the children are our future. Thank you. So we had to close down. We had to close down some lines. I mean, we took some slash. This was the trail that I showed you earlier with my first ghetto bridge. We hauled it out, we closed it down. Okay, we moved an existing line over here, and we had to close it down. It was just too muddy. Regardless of, you needed to take care of that. So that was something we need to do. It makes things safer for everybody as well. Oh, cool. It's video. Now the kids are like, yay, it's a video. Audra's like, yay, he's going to shut up. Audra, God bless her soul, says that I talk too much. Don't you, Audra? Okay. So. Okay, stay with me here. I have a picture bypass here. Makes much more sense. I don't know why this wasn't done in the beginning. We are at the top of the bypass trail, the highest point. We're not on the bypass trail, but we're close to it. Right there, you see the trail, and it comes along. I love how the cursor's right where it needed to be. I didn't do that on purpose. There's another one right ahead of me, and then there's another lengthy one. I'm not sure if you can see through the woods. That's 3 bridges. What about if, instead of those 3 bridges, you come down, go right through here, there's a span of probably 30, 40 feet, if that. And then you just go right up and connect to the trail. So instead of 3 bridges going through wetlands, the shortest distance between 2 points, you know what I'm saying? Just go right there. Okay, so the original line went through over, if I were to estimate, 70 feet. I think I paced it out 70 paces actually. It went over 70 paces of seepage, and definitely with a stream, a running stream. So instead, why don't you just cross the stream once, high point to high point, okay? And that's where we put in what we call the Yellow Fever Bridge. Why do we call it the Yellow Fever Bridge, Chris? Because of the mosquitoes. It was put in during that time of the season. Okay, and then certainly we have to work on existing trails. This is on, and I'm horrible in my directions, more towards the south end, towards the back gate of Bear Paw. There are 4 trails that essentially go to the same property, and they all really don't care about water too much. So this is a problem, and this is something that needs to be remedied. Okay, getting the youth involved. Okay, don't tell OSHA, but Joey's probably not using that Maddox too correctly, especially with the Zare right there. Wow! But that was a good day. Young backs are very appreciated. Those guys in an hour and a half did a heck of a lot of good quality work, taking care of something that was off camber and putting together something more sustainable. And I realized I gotta go faster. Okay, there we go, picking up a rake. Nothing makes me so much happier than to be in the middle of the woods with a rake, knowing if I had cardiac arrest, nobody would find me in a couple of months. Okay? Oh, that's getting the youth involved right there. Oh, Mrs. Barry, did you put that in there? All right, so why the East Paw grounds? Well, for those of you that know, there are 2 Bear Paws very close to each other. There's one over by Sherman's, there's one over by the State Line store. That's why it's east. Bear Paw, well, that's explanatory. Why did I want to call it a grounds? Think about the fairgrounds. My word. The fairgrounds is used for 20 million different things. Bear Paw, my idea for Bear Paw is it's going to be used not for mountain bikers exclusively. No way on earth. It is a great place to go trail running. It is a marvelous place for solitude, to walk your dogs, to be alone and be in peace. This is my temple. If I want to get close to God, that is where I'm going, okay? And it's a great place to show kids. Kids who know what an icon is, but couldn't tell you what a maple leaf looks like, okay? It's a good place for kids, and it's a very diverse, incredibly diverse piece of property. Within that 500 acres, you've got a lot going on. Okay, so what goes into trail design? Okay, well first off, you've got to consider some things. Okay, is it necessary? Is there a need? Who's it for? What kind of experience do they expect? Okay, we go back to the ski analogy. If it's a double diamond ski trail, you should expect something. But if it's a bunny slope, not so much. How much traffic? What resources are available? Again, just because you have a lopper, a Maddox, a machete, that doesn't give you the right to all of a sudden blaze trails. Okay? Tin Mountain gives access to their property. They don't give you access with a chainsaw and say, have at it. Okay, you need to, that's much different. Access and building are two different things. Where do you build? Well, we talked about planning over and over and over again. Okay? And yes, Isaiah, that is you. You gotta plan, and obviously you need to have the wherewithal to work with the landowner. The video that I shot with the cursor that's saved in the middle of that bridge, I sent to Chris and I sent to Mike. Mike is very much aware of anything I do or anything we do. He's the landowner, he's the guy in charge, and we want to work with him completely. So that's step number one. I imagine my colleagues will tell you I probably talk to them too much. Yes, we know too much about each other, or how many emails they get from me, or how many emails your parents get from me. But that's very important, keeping the lines of communication open. So topography, ground cover, right? We talk about soil types. Anybody in Mason want to talk to me about soil types? No. What's on the top? What's below that? A horizon. Come on. Tell me horizon. So obviously, what you've heard from me today again is water. Water is something you really got to manage. And current trail density. Are there already too many trails in this area? Again, I mentioned earlier, we got 4 trails going to the same place. Why? Okay, and then potential users. Who on earth is going to use this property? Okay, obviously you never build, okay, through areas with sensitive or rare plant animal species. Okay, we're lucky. We have Dr. Klein available at any point in time on the Bear Paw if we needed to have a biological assessment. The major trail reroute that we did to keep off of Calvin Hunsicker's property, we gave him GPS coordinates. He knew exactly what we were doing. He knew why we were doing it. Great examples to avoid, avoid and build carefully in areas that have archaeological or historical importance. Redstone Quarry and Millstone, Vermont are 2 examples. Okay, Redstone's got plenty of trails. Some of them legal, some of them not so much. That's on one end of the spectrum. Anybody here familiar with Millstone? Millstone is amazing, amazing. Okay, and they embrace the history there. The trail networks are part of the history, more so than trying to rewrite history or anything like that. It respects history. The meaning of sustainable can be vague, isn't that the truth? Okay? Trails are like cars. If designed, they will last a long time, and maintained. Without regular maintenance, they will eventually fall apart. I love that line. A well-designed trail gets better with age. I totally agree. And preemptively manage trail damage through careful design. Build rocky areas that can handle high levels of traffic, avoid wet areas and drainage, keep the trails narrow, utilize grade reversals to control rider speed and eliminate the need for heavy braking. The reality is you can construct trails almost anywhere if you have the manpower, time, and materials required. If I take a quick second to talk about this one. The bypass that we put in is an amazing trail, and it's coming along great, and it's getting rave reviews. At no point in time are you going in a straight line and are you going to feel, I need to grab a bunch of brake and lock up. Okay? There's no need for heavy braking. There's nice flowy turns, and we're going to talk about flow later. Everything's done in a manner that, with very little maintenance, that trail will be there a long time. Why do some trails fail or get closed down? Number one, come on, of course, you don't get landowner approval. That's everything. But also poor trail design. Trails that run straight down the fall line are generally maintenance nightmare and usually die out as the personnel required to keep them up tend to burn out. So the trail fails, and okay, well, you'll build another one. When I saw this line, Chris, it made me think of over at the Kingdom Trails. There was a wonderful trail that took you down to the riverside, which you really needed to because you were spent, you really needed to cool off. In order to get back, you basically had to climb, I'll say about 400 feet up a road on a bike. Now you can imagine it was a straight road. What did they do? They put in a nice set of switchbacks. Go round and round and round and round. Okay? It eliminated the need for speed. It eliminated erosion that was taking place. It worked out really well. Okay. A trail built poorly in the wrong place or manner where the risk of user groups is too great. Again, if we're doing work that we're being entrusted by Dr. Klein, we certainly want to limit the liability, making things safe. Building a trail and the components. Okay? Trail elements and natural features that dictate where a trail will go. Some examples: grades, slopes, scenic vistas, technical features, water crossing. An ideal trail designed for bikes utilizes terrain elements to provide a great riding experience, but also limits the amount of wear and tear on a trail caused by heavy braking or steep climbing. This is done by connecting and utilizing terrain elements in a manner that provides a sensation of flow to the user and manages the user's level of speed. Flow, what a great word. We all like flow, okay? Good stuff, okay? And trails designed this way are great for hiking, biking, anything, trail running. All different kinds of flow. Okay, you have open flow, technical flow, mixed flow. You can do other things as well, some secondary design considerations. You have these optional lines, which are easy outs. You have progressions and man-made features and bridges. And certainly I very much agree. You can probably get an idea of which slides Chris made, which slides I made. I certainly agree with what Chris said here. Okay, there's a misconception that beginner and intermediate mountain bikers that smooth, featureless trails have flow just because basically they're easy. Okay, and that's not the case. I love this line. Parking lots are smooth and featureless, but they don't have flow. All right? It's a great line. Am I going too fast? Anything? I'm good? Okay. How am I doing, Dad?
You're putting me to sleep.
Okay. Flagging the trail. Again, this takes hours and hours before the first, machete falls or the lopper or anything else. You flag the trail. Okay? You secure GPS information. You've looked at topographical maps. You've talked to the landowner involved. You've done all these things. So certainly, yeah, and I agree at the end, when you're done, you recover your flags. Anything to add? We're good? This presentation is certainly going to this will be available. It'll be on the Mesa website. We'll put it on the Facebook page that we're creating for you folks. And we certainly can send it to Tin Mountain as well. Okay? Construction. Okay, some basic steps to follow. You trim back the vegetation. This includes removal below soil and trimming flush to the trunk. Remove organic surface litter, down logs. In most cases, depending on the mineral soil type, availability, you remove organic material and compact the soil. Trail width will be approximately 50 centimeters per foot, and bike travel, of course, travel will be much longer. The great thing about the drainage at Bear Paw, there's really no soil removal necessary. The soil drains really quickly. It can get saturated. There's certainly some areas where there's seepage, and we need to work with that. But by and large, hardly any soil removal needed at Bear Paw. Construction, and this is hillside, and I really wish You know, a great example would be to show them the video of the trail that you did the other day, you showed me. It works very well. If on a hillside, you got to do some bench cuts. Imagine if you're a trail runner, Sarah, and you're trying to run on the side, that's probably not going to happen. You might tumble down the hill. Okay, so bench cuts are needed. Okay? And bench cuts are so much better than water bars. Okay, water bars are very high maintenance. They'll take a lot of water, but there shouldn't be a lot of water at that point. If you're properly bench cutting, there shouldn't be a need for a water bar whatsoever. Water bars stink. If you're a trail runner, it becomes almost like a hurdle. Or if you're a biker, boom, you're going to run right into it. Okay, and maintenance. If you've done it right, you shouldn't have a lot of maintenance, I would imagine. It's going to happen, because blowdowns are going to happen. Trees do happen to fall. But by and large, maintenance won't be an issue if you've done it right the first time. Okay? There will be trees that will grow in. There'll be branches that grow in. Ficus grandifolia. Thank you. That stuff grows very fast. It's a tree and it'll go right in to the trail. So you just come around with some pruners to trim that down. Okay? But here's some examples of just some common use. But by and large, user education. There's been I'll say that. You need to be smart. And this is incumbent upon this as a society. The gas prices are going up and up. Getting out in the woods, getting out in nature is very important. Getting connected to the land is important. And if you're going to be on a bike and you want to be out in the woods, you just need to also be responsible for your actions. And that does mean that when you're out in the woods, you need to ride responsibly. And we need, as a public, I know that in public education, in my program, we do a great job trying to teach these kids of how to use their bikes properly. But everybody does. And it would be nice that other user groups as well teach and preach proper riding habits. Not locking up the back brakes. Proper cornering, so they don't need to. Riding within yourself. Okay? Those types of things. Okay. If action needs to happen, one thing I certainly also would add up there is you got to work with the landowner. If something happens, their problem arises, and you need to reroute a resource is damaged or something, there are things that you can do. You can reroute and design. You can harden and armor the trail with rock or gravel. You can install more drainage, put in some culverts, and certainly close down the trail. There's a trail, probably the most used trail at this point with Bear Paw, might be the bridge, what's known as the Bridges Trail. That's not me. Although that would be a riot if it was. It'd be more of a riot if I took the call, excuse me. Okay? The Bridges Trail. There was a bridge there, it spanned 70 feet, right over a wetland. Probably not the greatest choice because it was low, it went over wetland, and it was just going to eventually rot out and be replaced. So we had to close that down. The bridge is rotted out, it's not safe, it's a liability concern. And again, informing the users of the problem, and certainly we can use a Facebook page as a public commentary, so we can get some feedback for the people that are user groups that are using the area. Safety is of the foremost importance. There's a reason why ski mountains flag off, they sign everything. People should be well aware of what they're doing. Okay? And I'm realizing also I'm starting to run out of time, so I'm going a little bit faster. Oh, wait a minute. I meant to do that. Okay? Special thanks to my peeps in the back. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. That's Mrs. Barry, Mr. Myers, and there's the big guy. He might be sleeping there, I'm not sure. That's Mr. Wheeler. East Side guys, and Chris, Molly, and the crew, all the work that they've done at Tin Mountain, certainly much to be applauded. And then there's a great picture. There's EVG and me and the kids at Bear Paw on a nice day that we had. Oh, so long ago. Okay? I can almost get emotional. I almost did for a second. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing at Bear Paw, and I want her in 10 years. I'm so excited. I want her to have the same experiences that I do, and that needs to happen. And that's something I'm very passionate about. Oh, good stuff. All right. So, thank you very much.
Should I turn this off now?
You can turn it off.
Guys.